They say you never see the fall coming, but I saw it. I saw her foot extend. I saw the calculated cruelty in her eyes. And in that split second, 7 months pregnant, surrounded by 300 witnesses at my sister's ballet premiere, I realized my entire marriage had been a lie. My name is Charlotte Hayes, and this is the story of how my husband's mistress tried to trip me at the most important night of my sister's life. My sister Victoria, Olympic champion, Prima Ballerina, the woman on billboards across Manhattan. She caught me before I hit the ground, but what she couldn't catch was the avalanche of truth that came crashing down after. Because that moment, that public humiliation, it was just the beginning. What I discovered in the days that followed, about my husband Graham, about the dozens of women he'd hurt, about the life I'd been sleepwalking through, changed everything. This is a story about falling, about betrayal, about a viral video that exposed more than just one affair. It's about 43 women, 7 secret pregnancies, 15 years of abuse, and one woman learning to stand up when everyone expected her to stay down. I was tripped at a ballet gala, but I didn't stay fallen. And if you've ever felt invisible in your own life, if you've ever questioned your instincts, if you've ever wondered whether you're strong enough to start over, this story is for you. Stay with me, because what happened next, nobody saw coming. Don't you dare touch my sister. Victoria's voice cut through the crystal clink of champagne flutes and polite applause like a blade through silk. Charlotte turned, 7 months pregnant and unsteady in borrowed heels, just in time to see her younger sister step between her and a woman she had never seen before. The woman was blonde, young, maybe 26 at most. She wore a black cocktail dress that cost more than Charlotte's monthly salary and a Cartier bracelet that looked exactly like the one Graham said he had returned last month because it was too expensive. The Lincoln Center gala swirled around them in a blur of designer gowns and tuxedos. This was Victoria's night, her debut as principal dancer with the New York City Ballet. Their mother, Eleanor, had flown in from Boston that morning. Charlotte had spent 3 weeks planning every detail of this family celebration, desperate to prove to Graham that her life was not just about the pregnancy, that she still mattered in his world of investment bankers and charity galas and people who summered in the Hamptons. And he had brought her, his mistress, to Charlotte's sister's opening night. "Charlotte, are you listening to me?" Victoria's hand gripped Charlotte's elbow. Her grip was strong. Dancers always had surprising strength in their fingers. "That woman is Natasha Quinn. She works with Graham." The name hit Charlotte like a fist to her solar plexus. Natasha, the woman whose name appeared on Graham's phone at 3 in the morning. The reason for his sudden business trips to Chicago. The explanation for why he had stopped touching Charlotte's belly, stopped asking about the baby, stopped being present even when he was physically in the same room. "I need air." Charlotte's voice came out thin and breathless. She turned toward the terrace doors. The borrowed heels caught on the carpet. Victoria's heels, because Charlotte's feet had swollen so badly that none of her own shoes fit anymore. She felt herself falling. The world tilted sideways. Her hands moved instinctively to protect her stomach, to shield the baby, to prevent the impact that would send her crashing into the marble floor. The impact never came. Victoria caught her, always faster than seemed humanly possible. Olympic champion reflexes meeting a sister's protective instinct. But Charlotte saw it, the flash of movement in her peripheral vision. Natasha's foot extended just slightly beyond where it should have been, just enough to catch Charlotte's heel. Just enough to send a 7-month pregnant woman tumbling toward disaster. "She tripped me." The words escaped before Charlotte could stop them. She deliberately tried to, "I saw it too." Victoria's voice had gone deadly quiet, the same tone she used before a competition. Cold, focused, lethal. "Where is Graham?" Charlotte scanned the crowded reception hall. There, by the bar. Graham stood with 3 other men in expensive suits, laughing at something one of them had said. He held a tumbler of whiskey in his left hand. His wedding ring caught the light. He had not looked at Charlotte once since they had arrived an hour ago. "Graham!" Victoria's voice carried across the room. People turned. Conversations paused mid-sentence. A waiter nearly dropped his tray of canapes. Graham looked up. His expression shifted from surprise to annoyance in less than a second. He excused himself from his colleagues and walked toward them with the practiced grace of a man who had grown up attending events exactly like this one. Victoria, this is hardly the time or place for your mistress just tried to hurt your pregnant wife. Victoria spoke loud enough that the 20 people nearest to them could hear every word. At my opening night gala, in front of 300 witnesses. Graham's face flushed red, the same red that appeared when his mother criticized him, when his boss questioned his judgment, when anyone dared to challenge the narrative he had constructed about his life. You're being dramatic. Charlotte is fine. Aren't you fine, Charlotte? Charlotte opened her mouth, closed it. Her hands were shaking. The baby kicked hard against her ribs, a sharp jab that made her gasp. I want to go home, she whispered. We just got here. The speeches haven't even started yet. I want to go home now. Something in Charlotte's voice must have registered because Graham's expression shifted again. Calculation replacing annoyance. He was doing math in his head, weighing his options, deciding whether it was better to leave or to force Charlotte to stay. Fine, we'll go. He turned to Victoria. Congratulations on your debut. Sorry we couldn't stay longer. He did not sound sorry. He sounded furious. Charlotte let him guide her toward the exit, let him help her into her coat, let him lead her through the crowd of people who were trying very hard to pretend they had not just witnessed something scandalous. In the elevator down to the parking garage, Graham said nothing. Charlotte watched the numbers descend. 10, 9, 8, 7. The baby kicked again. She pressed her hand to her belly, felt a small foot or elbow or knee pushing against her palm. I'm sorry, she said. You should be. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? I meant I'm sorry for falling. You didn't fall, you stumbled. There's a difference. The elevator doors opened. Graham walked 3 steps ahead of her toward the car. Charlotte followed, her feet aching in the too tight heels, her back screaming from standing for an hour, her heart beating too fast in her chest. She had seen Natasha's foot. She was certain of it. But Graham's voice was already making her doubt herself, already making her wonder if she had imagined it, if the pregnancy hormones were making her paranoid, if she was becoming the irrational, dramatic woman he always accused her of being. The drive home was silent. Graham turned on the radio. Classical music filled the car. Tchaikovsky. Charlotte recognized it from the ballet she had just missed watching her sister perform. Victoria had danced the lead role. Charlotte had not seen a single minute of it because she had been too busy confronting her husband's mistress in the lobby. They reached their building in Tribeca. Graham handed his keys to the valet. Charlotte followed him through the marble lobby and into the elevator that would take them to their apartment on the 14th floor. Inside, Graham poured himself another drink. Charlotte kicked off the heels and stood in the kitchen, her swollen feet pressed against the cold tile floor. I think we should talk, she said. There's nothing to talk about. Graham, please. I need to understand what's happening. What's happening is that my wife made a scene at an important event and embarrassed me in front of my colleagues. That woman works with you. Natasha. Victoria said her name is Natasha Quinn. Graham's jaw tightened. He took a long drink of whiskey, set the glass down on the marble counter with enough force that Charlotte flinched. Natasha is a marketing consultant at the firm. We work on some of the same projects. That's all. Then why was she at the gala? She was invited. Lots of people from Sterling were invited. It was a charity event. We bought a table. You never mentioned that you bought a table. I don't mention every detail of my work life to you, Charlotte. You're not my secretary. The word stung. Charlotte felt tears pricking at her eyes. Pregnancy made her cry at everything lately. Commercials, songs on the radio, the way the light looked at sunset. But these tears felt different, heavier, like they had been waiting for months to fall. Are you sleeping with her? The silence stretched between them, long enough that Charlotte knew the answer before Graham said anything at all. No, you're lying. I'm not lying. You're being paranoid. Then show me your phone. Excuse me? Show me your phone right now. If you're not lying, you won't have anything to hide. Graham laughed. It was not a kind sound. I'm not showing you my phone. I have confidential work information on there. Client communications. You know that. I know that her name shows up at 3 in the morning. I know that you started going to the gym suddenly 6 months ago. I know that you bought new cologne and new clothes and started caring about things you never cared about before. So I'm trying to take better care of myself, and that makes me a cheater? It makes you different. You're different, Graham. You don't look at me anymore. You don't touch me. You flinch when I try to kiss you. You leave the room when I talk about the baby. You're gone more than you're here, and when you are here, you're somewhere else. Charlotte's voice cracked on the last word. The tears were falling now, hot and fast and unstoppable. She hated crying in front of him, hated giving him the satisfaction of seeing her break. Graham set down his drink, walked over to where Charlotte stood, put his hands on her shoulders. His touch was gentle but somehow wrong, like a stranger trying to comfort someone he did not actually care about. You're exhausted. The pregnancy has been hard on you. You're not thinking clearly. Don't do that. Don't make this about the pregnancy. This is about you and whatever you're doing with that woman. I'm not doing anything with anyone. You're imagining things. But the baby kicked again, hard, as if to say that Charlotte was not imagining anything at all, that her instincts were right, that her body knew the truth even when her mind tried to deny it. Charlotte pulled away from Graham's touch, walked to their bedroom, closed the door, sat on the edge of their bed and stared at her reflection in the mirror across the room. She looked like a stranger, swollen and pale and exhausted. Her hair was a mess, her makeup had smudged, her belly stretched the fabric of the emerald dress she had bought specifically for tonight. The dress that was supposed to make her feel beautiful, that was supposed to remind Graham that she was still the woman he had married 8 years ago, but she was not that woman anymore. That woman had disappeared somewhere along the way, piece by piece, choice by choice, until nothing remained but this hollow shell, wearing a pretty dress and pretending everything was fine. Charlotte's phone buzzed, a text from Victoria. Are you okay? Call me when you can. I love you. Charlotte stared at the message, wanted to call, wanted to tell Victoria everything. But what would she say? That she suspected her husband was cheating but had no proof? That she felt invisible in her own marriage but could not articulate why? That she was about to become a mother and did not know if she could do it alone? She set the phone down, lay back on the bed, felt the baby move inside her, pressed both hands to her belly, and whispered words that felt like a prayer. It's just you and me. Whatever happens, I've got you, I promise. The baby kicked again, softer this time, like an answer, like a promise in return. Charlotte closed her eyes, let the exhaustion pull her under. Did not hear Graham come to bed hours later. Did not feel him lie down on his side of the mattress, as far from her as possible without falling off. Did not know that across the city, Victoria was calling Marcus Whitfield at 11 o'clock at night to ask if he still practiced family law. Did not know that Natasha Quinn was crying in her apartment, staring at a pregnancy test with 2 pink lines, wondering how everything had gone so wrong so fast. Did not know that tomorrow morning, her entire life would begin to unravel in ways she could not yet imagine. But somewhere deep inside, Charlotte knew, had known for months, had been gathering evidence without even realizing it, had been protecting future Charlotte, the one who would finally wake up. The hospital bracelet cut into Charlotte's wrist. She stared at it, white plastic with black text. Hey, Charlotte, date of birth, medical record number. The cold fluorescent lights made everything look greenish and unreal, like she had fallen into someone else's nightmare. Baby's heartbeat is strong. Dr. Rebecca Morrison moved the ultrasound wand across Charlotte's exposed belly. The gel was cold. The screen showed a grainy black and white image of Charlotte's daughter, heart fluttering like a tiny bird. No signs of placental abruption, no bleeding, no contractions. You were very lucky. Lucky. The word felt obscene. Charlotte was not lucky. Lucky women did not end up in emergency rooms at midnight because they had nearly fallen at their sister's opening night gala. Victoria stood on one side of the hospital bed, still wearing stage makeup, still in her performance dress with a coat thrown over it. She had left her own after party, had followed the ambulance to Mount Sinai, had held Charlotte's hand through every test and scan and examination. Their mother, Eleanor, sat in the chair on the other side, lips pressed into a thin line, the same expression she wore when giving poor performance reviews to students at Juilliard. Furious but controlled, perfectly composed rage. Graham stood at the foot of the bed, checking his phone. He had been checking his phone for the past 45 minutes, responding to texts, scrolling through emails, anything to avoid looking at his pregnant wife in a hospital bed. "I should get back to the gala," he said. Not a question, a statement. The partners are still there. It would be rude to just disappear without explanation. "Your wife almost lost your baby." Eleanor's voice could have frozen the East River solid. "And you want to return to a party?" "Mother, there's no need to be dramatic. The doctor just said everything is fine." "Everything is not fine." Victoria's voice vibrated with barely controlled fury. Natasha Quinn deliberately tried to hurt Charlotte. "I saw it. Charlotte saw it. Half the gala saw it." "That's ridiculous. Natasha would never." "How well do you know her, Graham?" Charlotte heard herself ask. Her voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else entirely. Graham's jaw tightened. "She's a colleague. I already told you that." "Then why did you check on her before you checked on my silence? The kind that screams louder than words." A nurse walked past in the hallway, soft footsteps, the beep of a heart monitor somewhere distant, the hum of fluorescent lights. "I didn't." "When the ambulance came, when everyone was crowding around, you went to her first. I saw you. You asked if she was okay, if anyone had hurt her. You didn't ask about me until Victoria grabbed your arm and dragged you over." Graham's face flushed that terrible red. "You're remembering wrong." "I'm not. I remember everything about tonight. Every single detail." "Charlotte, you're exhausted. You're upset. Let's not do this here." "How long?" The question came out calm, too calm, like the eye of a hurricane. "How long have you been sleeping with her?" Victoria made a small sound, not quite a gasp, more like confirmation. Eleanor closed her eyes briefly, opened them, fixed Graham with a stare that could have melted steel. "I'm not sleeping with anyone." Graham's voice was tight, defensive, the voice of a man who had been caught and was scrambling for an exit. "This is insane. I came here to make sure you were okay, and now you're accusing me of 6 months. Everyone turned to look at Victoria. She stood with her arms crossed, still wearing her coat. Her hair was falling out of its elaborate updo. She looked like an avenging angel. "What?" Graham's voice cracked on the single syllable. "Jennifer saw you with Natasha in June. At that restaurant in Brooklyn you always said was beneath you. The one with the exposed brick and the craft cocktails. She took a photo because she thought it was strange. You were holding hands across the table. Natasha was wearing that bracelet. The Cartier one." Victoria pulled out her phone, swiped, turned the screen toward Graham. Charlotte could not see the image from where she lay, but she watched Graham's face go from red to white in the space of a heartbeat. "Jennifer told me last week, asked if I knew about it, if Charlotte knew. I was going to tell you after my opening, after tonight. I didn't want to ruin your evening. Didn't want to make Victoria's night about my problems." Victoria's voice cracked. "I should have told you sooner. I'm so sorry." 6 months, the number echoed in Charlotte's head. She did math quickly, compulsively, the way she had been avoiding doing for weeks. She was 7 months pregnant, 29 weeks exactly, which meant Graham had started sleeping with Natasha before Charlotte got pregnant. Before that miraculous surprise baby. Before Graham had suddenly become interested in trying again after months of putting it off. "You suggested we take a break from trying." Charlotte's voice was flat, numb. "In March, you said we should focus on our careers, that we shouldn't put pressure on ourselves. And then in April, you changed your mind, said you wanted to try again, that you were ready." She looked at Graham, really looked at him, saw the truth written across his face in lines of guilt and calculation. She was pregnant. The realization hit like a physical blow. Natasha was pregnant, you got her pregnant, and then you decided you needed to get me pregnant too, as insurance, as cover, so that when it came out you could say we were trying, so that no one would question the timeline. "That's not," Graham started. "Is she still pregnant?" Charlotte asked. Does she still have it? Did she keep your baby, Graham? There is no baby. Graham's voice was sharp. Final. It was handled. It's over. And yes, before you ask, I've been seeing Natasha. I made a mistake. I'm sorry, but it's over now. We can move past this. For our child. For our family. Eleanor stood, all 5 feet 2 inches of her radiating professorial authority and maternal fury. Get out. Excuse me? Get out of this hospital room, pack a bag, and get out of the apartment. Tonight. You can't kick me out of my own home. Actually, I can. Victoria's voice was cold, precise. I'm the one who loaned you the down payment 3 years ago. $50,000 that you said you'd pay back in 6 months. You never did. My name is on the deed as lien holder. Charlotte, you're coming to stay with E tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out the rest. Victoria, this is between me and my wife. Your wife, who you endangered by bringing your mistress to a family event. Eleanor stepped closer to Graham. Her voice dropped to just above a whisper, somehow more terrifying than shouting. Your pregnant wife who you cheated on for at least 6 months. Your wife who you manipulated into getting pregnant as part of some scheme to cover up your affair. You don't get to call her your wife anymore. You lost that right the moment you chose to betray her. This is ridiculous. Charlotte, call me when you're thinking clearly, when you're ready to have an actual adult conversation instead of this melodrama. He walked out. The door swung shut behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. Charlotte felt something crack inside her chest, not her heart breaking. Something else. Something that had been holding her together for so long she had forgotten it was there. The scaffolding of denial and hope, in desperate belief that everything would somehow be okay. It collapsed all at once. Victoria climbed onto the hospital bed, careful of the monitors, careful of Charlotte's belly. She wrapped her arms around Charlotte and held her while Charlotte's body shook with sobs that had been building for months, maybe years. I knew. The words came out between gasps. God, I knew. The way he stopped looking at me. The way he flinched when I tried to kiss him. The way he started working out suddenly. Buying new clothes, caring about things he never cared about before. I knew, and I told myself I was being paranoid. That it was pregnancy hormones. That I was being dramatic. You weren't being dramatic. Eleanor's hand covered Charlotte's. You were being gaslit. There's a difference. He spent months making you question your own perception, your own sanity. That's abuse, Charlotte. What he did to you is abuse. I should have left sooner, before I got pregnant, before I got trapped. You're not trapped. Victoria pulled back enough to look Charlotte in the eyes. You're my sister. You have family. You have resources. You have a law degree even if you haven't practiced in 5 years. You have options. I'm about to have a baby. I'm about to be a single mother. Yes, and you're going to be amazing at it because you're Charlotte Hayes. And Charlotte Hayes doesn't give up. She just figures out the next step. But lying in that hospital bed with her marriage in ruins and her future uncertain and a baby kicking inside her belly, Charlotte did not feel like someone who figured things out. She felt like someone who had been sleepwalking through her own life, who had let herself become so small and quiet and accommodating that she had disappeared entirely. Dr. Morrison came back with discharge papers, instructions for rest, warning signs to watch for, a follow-up appointment in 3 days. She spoke in a calm, professional voice, but her eyes were kind, like she understood exactly what was happening beyond the medical emergency. Do you have somewhere safe to stay tonight? She asked. She's staying with me, Victoria said firmly. Oh, good, that's good. Dr. Morrison handed Charlotte a business card. This is the number for a counselor who specializes in pregnancy and relationship trauma. You don't have to call today or tomorrow, but keep it for when you're ready. Charlotte took the card, slipped it into her purse, felt the weight of it like a promise, like permission to fall apart later when there was space and time and safety. The ride to Victoria's apartment was silent. Eleanor sat in the front seat. Victoria drove. Charlotte sat in the back, staring out the window at the city sliding past. It was 3 a.m. The streets were empty except for the occasional taxi or delivery truck. How many times had Charlotte driven these streets? How many years had she lived in New York? 8 years. The same amount of time she had been married to Graham. She had moved here for him, had given up a job opportunity in Boston, had told herself it was compromise. That's what marriage was. Compromise and sacrifice and putting your partner's needs alongside your own. Except somewhere along the way, alongside had become instead of. Charlotte's needs had been swallowed entirely, had disappeared into the space where Graham's ego expanded to fill every available inch. Victoria's apartment was in the Upper West Side, a pre-war building with original crown molding and hardwood floors and windows that overlooked Central Park. The guest room was already made up. Clean sheets, extra pillows, a stack of towels on the dresser. "I'll stay too," Eleanor said. "I'll sleep on the couch." "You don't have to," Charlotte started. "I'm staying." End of discussion. Victoria disappeared into her own room and came back with pajamas. Soft cotton that smelled like lavender fabric softener. She helped Charlotte change, helped her wash off her makeup, helped her brush her teeth and braid her hair. It felt like being a child again, being taken care of, being allowed to be helpless for a moment. Charlotte climbed into bed. The sheets were cool and smooth. The pillows were perfect. Everything in Victoria's apartment was perfect, beautiful and expensive, and arranged just so. The life of someone who had achieved her dreams instead of abandoning them. "Do you ever regret it?" Charlotte asked. "Skating and dancing instead of having a normal life?" Victoria sat on the edge of the bed. "No, never, but I think maybe you regret giving up dance. I didn't give it up. I just chose something else." "Did you choose or did Graham choose for you?" The question hung in the air. Charlotte did not answer, did not need to. They both knew the truth. Victoria stood, turned off the light, paused in the doorway. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we'll start figuring things out, one step at a time." She closed the door. Charlotte lay in the darkness, felt the baby moving inside her, small rolls and kicks and stretches. A whole person growing in the ruins of her marriage. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Charlotte picked it up. 17 missed calls from Graham, 23 text messages. She opened them, read them in order, watched the tone shift from apologetic to angry, to manipulative, to threatening. "I'm sorry, baby. We can work through this. You're overreacting. Think about what's best for our child. You can't just kick me out. This is my home too. Your sister has poisoned you against me. Natasha means nothing. You're being irrational. If you don't call me back, I'm going to assume you want this marriage to end. Fine, have it your way, but don't come crying to me when you realize how hard it is to be a single mother. You'll regret this. I gave you everything. You are nothing without me." Charlotte read each message twice, let the words sink in, recognized the patterns she had been taught to ignore. The gaslighting, the manipulation. The way Graham always made her feel like she was the problem. Like she was too sensitive, too dramatic, too needy, too much. She blocked his number, deleted the messages, set the phone face down on the nightstand. In the darkness, Charlotte made a decision. Tomorrow she would call a lawyer. She would file for divorce. She would figure out custody and money and how to untangle 8 years of shared life. But tonight she would just breathe, just exist, just let herself feel the full weight of betrayal and loss and grief for the life she had thought she was building. The baby kicked. Charlotte pressed her hand to the spot, felt a small foot or elbow pushing back. "It's okay," she whispered. "We're going to be okay. I don't know how yet, but we will be." And for the first time in months, Charlotte believed it. Victoria's guest room smelled like lavender and expensive candles. Charlotte sat on the edge of the bed at 2 a.m, unable to sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Natasha's foot extended, saw Graham's face when Victoria showed him the photo, saw the text messages scrolling across her phone screen like evidence of her own stupidity. The baby was awake too, moving constantly, pressing against Charlotte's ribs in a way that made it hard to breathe deeply. She wondered if babies could sense their mother's stress, if her daughter knew that everything was falling apart before she even arrived. Her phone sat on the nightstand. She had unblocked Graham's number. Not to respond, just to see, to know what he was saying, to gather evidence for the lawyer she would call in the morning. 32 new messages. She read them all. The tone had shifted again. Now he was apologetic. Now he was the victim. Now he was the one who had been wronged by Charlotte's dramatic overreaction, by her sister's interference, by her mother's hatred of him. He had always been good at rewriting history, at taking any situation and spinning it until he came out looking reasonable and Charlotte looked unhinged. I've been thinking about what you said. You're right. I should have been more attentive during the pregnancy. I should have made you feel more loved. I'm sorry. Can we please talk? Really talk? I miss you. Charlotte's thumb hovered over the keyboard. The urge to respond was strong, to explain herself, to defend her position, to make him understand. But what would she say? That she missed him too? That was the worst part. She did miss him. Not the Graham who had been cheating on her for 6 months, but the Graham she had married 8 years ago, the one who had made her laugh, who had seemed to see something special in her that no one else did. That Graham had probably never existed, had probably always been a performance, a role he played until he got what he wanted. A soft knock on the door. I saw your light on. Victoria came in carrying 2 mugs. Steam rose from both. The smell of chamomile tea filled the small room. She had changed into pajamas, scrubbed off her stage makeup, let her hair down from its elaborate updo. She looked younger, more like the little sister Charlotte remembered from childhood. Dr. Morrison said chamomile is safe. Decaf. I checked 3 times before I made it. They sat together on the bed. Victoria tucked her legs under her. Charlotte leaned against the headboard, the tea warming her hands. Thank you, Charlotte said, for everything, for leaving your party, for letting me stay here, for not saying I told you so. Why would I say that? Because you told me so. 8 years ago when I first started dating Graham, you said he was wrong for me. Victoria was quiet for a long moment, sipped her tea, stared at nothing in particular. I didn't think he was wrong because he was a bad person. I thought he was wrong because you changed around him. You got smaller, quieter. You stopped dancing. The words hit harder than Charlotte expected. She had not thought about dancing in years, had trained herself not to think about it. The way you train yourself not to think about a lost limb. He didn't make me stop. He just didn't encourage it. Is there a difference? Charlotte opened her mouth to argue, closed it, sipped her tea, let the warmth spread through her chest. He asked me to stop auditioning. The memory surfaced like something dredged from deep water. After we got engaged, said it was impractical, that I needed to focus on building a real career. I was working as an arts administrator, but still auditioning for contemporary companies, still hoping for a chance to dance professionally. She paused, breathed, the baby kicked. I was so grateful he saw me as more than just Victoria Hayes's little sister that I didn't question it. I thought he was being practical, mature. I thought he was helping me grow up. You were always more than my little sister. You were always Charlotte. Was I? I don't know anymore. I don't know who I am without him. I've spent 8 years being Graham's wife. Graham's +1. The woman who smiles at firm dinners and doesn't ask too many questions and makes sure his mother gets a birthday card even though she barely acknowledges my existence. Charlotte's voice cracked. The tears were coming again. She was so tired of crying, tired of this weakness that pregnancy seemed to have unleashed. Before getting pregnant, she could go months without crying. Now she cried at commercials, at sad songs, at the way the light looked through the kitchen window at sunset. When did I stop being a person? She whispered. When did I become just an extension of his life? Victoria set down her tea, climbed fully onto the bed, wrapped her arms around Charlotte and held her the way their mother used to when they were children, tight and safe and unbreakable. They sat like that for a long time. The city outside was quiet. The apartment was warm. The baby kicked against Charlotte's ribs. Want to know something? Victoria said finally. The first time I won an Olympic medal, all I wanted to do was call you. Not Mom, not Richard, you. Because you're the person who knew me before any of this. Before the fame and the pressure and the expectations. You knew me when I was just a kid who liked to skate. She pulled back enough to look at Charlotte. You're the person who used to choreograph little dances in our basement, who would make up Liberty stories and then act them out, who was fearless. You auditioned for things knowing you might fail. You created things knowing they might be terrible. And somewhere along the way, you stopped doing that. You stopped creating. You stopped risking failure. You played it safe. Safe feels smart when you're terrified of losing everything, and everything. But you didn't lose everything. He did. He lost you. He lost the chance to watch you become whatever you were supposed to become. He lost the privilege of being married to someone brave enough to leave him when he stopped deserving her. The baby kicked hard. Charlotte gasped, grabbed Victoria's hand, pressed it to the spot where their niece was protesting or agreeing or just making her presence known. She's strong, Victoria said softly, just like her mom. I don't feel strong. You're 7 months pregnant. You just found out your husband has been cheating on you. You're sitting in your sister's guest room at 2 a.m, drinking chamomile tea and trying to figure out what comes next. That's strength. It doesn't look like what you thought it would look like, but it's strength. They sat together feeling the baby move until Charlotte finally cried. Really cried. Not the quiet tears she had been leaking all night, but ugly, gasping sobs that made her nose run and her chest hurt. She cried for the marriage she had thought she had, for the husband who had never existed, for the 8 years she had spent apologizing for taking up space, for the pregnancy she had faced increasingly alone, for the dance career she had abandoned, for the woman she used to be before she had learned to make herself small. Victoria held her, did not say it would be okay, did not offer empty promises, just held her while Charlotte fell apart in the darkness of a guest room that smelled like lavender and safety. When the tears finally stopped, Charlotte felt hollowed out, empty, like something had been excavated from her chest. I need to sleep, she said. Okay, I'm right next door if you need anything. Victoria stood, collected the empty tea mugs, paused at the door. Charlotte, I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner about Jennifer seeing them. I should have trusted you to handle the truth. Would I have believed you? I don't know. Maybe not. And then you made the right choice. I wasn't ready. I'm still not sure I'm ready, but at least now I know. At least now I can stop pretending. Victoria nodded, left, closed the door softly behind her. Charlotte lay down. The sheets were cool against her flushed skin. She closed her eyes, let herself remember things she had been trying to forget. Graham on their third date telling her she was the most interesting woman he had ever met. Graham proposing at Lincoln Center after a performance of Swan Lake. Graham promising her a life of partnership and mutual respect and love that would last forever. Those memories felt contaminated now, tainted by the knowledge of what came after. How long had he been lying? Had he ever meant any of it? Or had she just been a pretty acquisition? The accomplished girlfriend with the famous sister? The woman who made him look good at firm events? She had decorated the nursery alone, had picked out the crib and assembled it herself, watching YouTube videos when she did not understand the instructions. Graham had come in once, said it looked nice, left. She had attended every doctor's appointment alone, had heard the heartbeat alone, had seen the ultrasound images alone had learned the baby was a girl alone. Graham had been there physically for exactly one appointment, the anatomy scan at 20 weeks. He had looked at the screen for maybe 30 seconds. Said it was cool, checked his phone for the remaining 45 minutes of the exam. Charlotte had told herself he was busy. That work was stressful, that not all men were good at the emotional aspects of pregnancy, that it was fine, that it would be different once the baby arrived, but it would not be different. Graham did not want to be a father. He wanted the image of being a father. The family photos he could post on social media, the cute stories he could tell at dinner parties. The child he could use as proof that he was a good man, a family man, someone worthy of respect and admiration. Charlotte pressed both hands to her belly, felt her daughter moving inside her. I'm going to do better, she whispered into the darkness. I'm going to teach you that you don't have to make yourself small, that you don't have to disappear to make someone else comfortable, that you deserve to take up space, that your dreams matter. The baby kicked. Like agreement, like a promise, Charlotte closed her eyes, let herself drift towards sleep. Tomorrow she would call a lawyer, would start untangling her life from Graham's, would figure out how to be a single mother, would learn to be herself again. But tonight she would just rest, just breathe, just let herself exist in this in-between space where the old life had ended, but the new one had not yet begun. Her last thought before sleep took her was this. She had fallen at the gala, but Victoria had caught her. And tomorrow when she fell again, because she would fall, because unraveling a marriage was a series of falls, Victoria would catch her again. And maybe, eventually, Charlotte would learn to catch herself. Monday morning arrived with weak November sunlight filtering through Victoria's guest room curtains. Charlotte woke to the sound of her phone buzzing. Marcus Whitfield's office confirming her 9 o'clock appointment. She had called at 7:30. He had somehow found time to see her within 2 hours. Victoria's doing, probably. The advantage of having a famous sister with connections. Eleanor was making breakfast when Charlotte emerged from the guest room. Scrambled eggs, whole grain toast, orange juice, prenatal vitamins arranged in a little dish next to her plate. "You need to eat," Eleanor said. Not a suggestion, a directive from a woman who had spent 40 years teaching discipline to aspiring musicians. The baby needs nutrition even when you're falling apart. As Charlotte sat at Victoria's kitchen island, the apartment was beautiful. Everything in its place. Original art on the walls. Books organized by color on custom shelves. The kitchen had marble countertops and appliances Charlotte could not name the function of. This was what success looked like. What happened when you pursued your dreams instead of abandoning them for a man who barely looked at you? "Where's Victoria?" Charlotte asked. "Rehearsal. She'll be back by lunch. She wanted to stay, but I told her you'd be fine." "You are fine, aren't you?" Charlotte took a bite of eggs. They were perfect, fluffy, and seasoned exactly right. Of course, everything Eleanor did was perfect. "I don't know what I am." "You're angry, or you should be. If you're not angry yet, you will be soon." "I'm tired and confused and scared." Those are all reasonable responses to discovering your husband is a lying piece of garbage. Eleanor's voice was matter-of-fact. She taught at Juilliard. She did not mince words. But eventually the anger will come, and when it does, you need to channel it into action. That's what this meeting is about, action. Marcus Whitfield's office was in Midtown, 32nd floor of a building with too much glass and too little character. The receptionist offered coffee. Charlotte declined. Caffeine made the baby kick harder. Marcus was younger than Charlotte expected, maybe 45. Kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He shook her hand, offered her a seat, closed his office door. "Victoria briefed me on the basics. I'm so sorry you're going through this." His voice was gentle but professional. "Let's start with the facts. You and Graham are legally married. You're 7 months pregnant. You live together in an apartment in Tribeca. Is that correct?" "Yes, except I'm not living there anymore. I'm staying with Victoria." "Good, that's good actually." Marcus opened a leather portfolio, pulled out a legal pad. "Do you own the apartment together?" "Graham's name is on the deed, but Victoria loaned us the down payment 3 years ago. $50,000. He said he'd pay her back. He never did. So Victoria has a financial stake in the property. That gives us leverage." Marcus made notes. His handwriting was surprisingly neat. "What about income? Are you employed?" Charlotte's cheeks burned. "I work part-time as an arts administrator for the Performing Arts Foundation. 20 hours a week. I make about $35,000 a year." "And Graham?" "He's a partner at Sterling Investments. I don't know his exact salary, but it's significant. Over $200,000, I think. Plus bonuses." Marcus's eyebrows rose slightly. "That's quite a disparity, which works in your favor for spousal support. You're the lower-earning spouse and you're pregnant. New York courts tend to be sympathetic to that." He asked more questions about their finances, their debts, their assets. Charlotte answered as best she could, but realized with growing horror how little she knew about her own life. Graham handled the money, paid the bills, made the investment decisions. Charlotte had access to a checking account for household expenses, but nothing else. "I need to be honest with you," Marcus said after 20 minutes. "The cheating matters emotionally, but not much legally. New York is a no-fault divorce state. The affair won't impact asset division or custody unless we can prove it affected his ability to parent. He got his mistress pregnant, paid for her to have an abortion. That has to matter. It might, but we need proof. Do you have any documentation? Texts, emails, bank statements showing payments to a clinic? Charlotte pulled out her phone. I have texts, screenshots from the past 3 months. I started taking them when I suspected something was wrong. She had not consciously decided to gather evidence, had just started screenshotting conversations, saving receipts, making notes of dates and times when Graham claimed to be working late, but his location services showed him somewhere else entirely. Some part of her had been preparing for this moment, had been protecting future Charlotte, the one who would finally wake up. Marcus scrolled through the screenshots. His expression remained neutral, but Charlotte saw the tightness around his eyes. This is good. This is very good. The messages show a pattern of deception. The location data proves he lied about his whereabouts. The receipts show unexplained expenses during times he claimed to be traveling for work. He looked up. Charlotte, I have to ask, what do you want from this divorce? The question caught her off guard. She had been so focused on surviving the discovery, on processing the betrayal, that she had not thought about what came next. I want full custody, with supervised visitation until I'm comfortable otherwise. I want child support that reflects his actual income. I want to keep my grandmother's jewelry and my personal possessions, and I want him to face consequences. What kind of consequences? At work, for the affair, for creating a hostile environment, and for whatever he did that required Sterling to pay for Natasha's abortion. Marcus set down his pen. I need to tell you something. Workplace consequences are tricky. They depend on Sterling's internal policies, on whether Natasha files a complaint, on whether other victims come forward. That's outside the scope of a divorce proceeding. Then what's inside the scope? Protecting you and your child, ensuring financial stability, ending the marriage as quickly and cleanly as possible. That's what I can do. Charlotte felt deflated. So he just gets away with it. Legally? Probably. But life has a way of catching up with men like Graham. My job is to make sure you're safe and provided for when it does. When they talked for another 30 minutes about custody arrangements, about temporary support, about the timeline for filing, Marcus said he would draft the papers, that Charlotte should expect to be served with Graham's response within a few weeks, that the process would take at least 6 months, probably longer. What if the baby comes before it's finalized? Charlotte asked Michelle. Then we adjust. Family court can issue temporary orders about custody and support while the divorce is pending. You won't be without protection. Charlotte left the office feeling both relieved and terrified. She had taken the first step, put the machinery of divorce into motion. There was no going back now. Her phone rang. Victoria. How'd it go? He's filing the papers this week. Says we have a strong case for spousal support and full custody. Good, that's good. Listen, Mom and I were thinking, you should go to the apartment today. Collect your things. Graham's in Connecticut at his parents' house. I checked with Jennifer, who checked with someone at Sterling. He won't be back until Wednesday. I don't want to go back there. I know, but you need your stuff, your clothes, your books, the nursery furniture, all of it. Don't give him the chance to hold it hostage or throw it out. Victoria was right. Charlotte knew she was right, but the thought of walking into that apartment made her stomach turn. I'll come with you, Victoria said, reading Charlotte's silence correctly. We'll make it quick, in and out, and Jennifer said she'll meet us there with boxes. 2 hours later, Charlotte stood in front of her building in Tribeca. The doorman greeted her like nothing had changed, like she was still the pregnant wife of a successful banker, instead of the soon-to-be ex-wife of a cheating narcissist. The elevator ride up felt endless. 14 floors. Charlotte counted each one, tried to breathe steadily. The baby was quiet, like she knew they were returning to the scene of the crime. Jennifer was waiting in the hallway with a stack of cardboard boxes and packing tape. She hugged Charlotte without saying anything. Some things were beyond words. Inside, the apartment looked exactly the same, untouched, like Graham had not been here since Friday night, like he had walked out and never looked back. Charlotte moved through the rooms in a daze, started in the bedroom, her clothes, her shoes, her jewelry box containing the pearls her grandmother had left her, the watch her mother gave her when she graduated law school, the framed photo of her and Victoria as children, both dressed as ballerinas for Halloween. In the bathroom, she packed her toiletries. Pregnancy-safe face wash, stretch mark cream, the ridiculously expensive shampoo she loved but felt guilty buying. She left everything that felt like part of their shared life. The wedding photos, the art Graham had chosen. The furniture they had picked out together at stores Charlotte could not afford before she married him. The nursery was harder. Charlotte stood in the doorway and felt tears burning behind her eyes. She had decorated this room alone, had picked out the woodland creature Moby, had assembled the crib while watching YouTube videos because Graham was too busy to help, had painted the walls a soft sage green that felt peaceful and calm. "We'll take all of it," Jennifer said firmly. "Every single piece. Don't leave her anything." They packed systematically. The crib came apart with some effort. The changing table, the rocking chair Charlotte had imagined using for late-night feedings, the drawers full of tiny onesies and soft blankets. In the closet, Charlotte found something that made her stop breathing. A box, shoved in the back behind Graham's winter coats. She pulled it out, opened it. Letters, printed emails, a burner phone she had never seen before. Evidence of affairs she had not known about. Names she did not recognize. Sarah, Michelle, someone named Katie with a heart drawn next to her name. "He's been cheating the entire time." Charlotte's voice came out flat, emotionless, shock settling over her like a heavy blanket. Not just Natasha, the whole marriage, maybe before the marriage. Victoria took the box, looked through the contents. Her face went pale. "We're taking this, copying everything. You're giving it to Marcus. I want to burn it. I want to destroy every piece of evidence that I wasted 8 years of my life on a man who never loved me. Then we'll burn it after we copy it. But Charlotte, you need to be smart. This is ammunition. This proves a pattern. This might matter in custody proceedings if it shows he's unstable or reckless." Jennifer was already photographing every document, every text printed out and saved, every receipt, building a digital archive of Graham's infidelity. They worked for 3 hours, packed Charlotte's entire life into 16 cardboard boxes, called a moving service to transport everything to Victoria's apartment. Charlotte took one last walk through the space she had called home for 3 years. The kitchen where she had cooked dinners Graham barely ate. The living room where she had sat alone so many evenings while he worked late. The bedroom where they had conceived their daughter in what Charlotte now realized was probably a calculated decision on Graham's part. Nothing here belonged to her. Not really. She had been a guest in her own life, playing house, playing wife, playing at happiness, while her husband built other lives with other women. "Ready?" Victoria asked gently. Charlotte nodded. They left, locked the door behind them, dropped the keys at the front desk with instructions to give them to Graham when he returned. In the car ride back to Victoria's apartment, Charlotte felt numb, like she had used up all her emotions and had nothing left. The baby kicked. She pressed her hand to the spot. "I decorated a nursery for a baby whose father doesn't want her," Charlotte said to no one in particular. "I spent hours picking out the perfect mobile and the perfect blankets and the perfect everything. And the whole time he was sleeping with other women, planning his exits, making sure he had options." "He's the one who's lost everything," Jennifer said from the front seat. "You still have your daughter. You still have your family. You still have your whole life ahead of you. He has nothing but his own ego and a reputation that's about to be destroyed." Charlotte wanted to believe her, wanted to feel that righteous anger that Eleanor had promised would come. But all she felt was tired, bone deep, exhausted, ready for this day to be over, ready to stop existing in this terrible in-between space where she was still legally married but emotionally divorced, still pregnant but preparing for single motherhood, still herself but also someone completely different. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Natasha. I know you have no reason to talk to me, but I need to tell you something. Can we meet?" Charlotte stared at the message, felt her heart rate pick up. The baby kicked harder. Victoria glanced over from the driver's seat. "Who is it?" "Natasha. She wants to meet." "Absolutely not. You're not going anywhere near that woman." But Charlotte was already typing a response. She did not know why, did not know what she hoped to gain from talking to her husband's mistress. But some instinct deeper than logic was telling her to say yes. Tomorrow, 3 o'clock. The coffee shop near Lincoln Center. The one with the blue awning. The response came immediately. Thank you, I'll be there. Charlotte, this is a terrible idea, Victoria said. Probably, but I'm doing it anyway. Because Charlotte needed to understand, needed to look at the woman Graham had chosen over her, needed to see what her 8 years of marriage was worth, needed to know if there was anything Natasha could say that would make any of this make sense. And maybe somewhere in the back of her mind, Charlotte was hoping to find an ally. Because if Natasha had been manipulated the way Charlotte suspected, they were not enemies. They were both victims of the same man. And together they might be able to ensure he faced consequences that the legal system could not provide. Graham appeared at Victoria's apartment on Wednesday morning. Charlotte was not supposed to be there. She was supposed to be at the coffee shop meeting Natasha. But the meeting was not until 3 o'clock, and it was only 10 in the morning. She was sitting on Victoria's couch in sweatpants and an oversized shirt, working on grant proposals for the Performing Arts Foundation, when the doorman called up. Mrs. Hayes, your husband is here. Should I send him up? Victoria appeared in the doorway of her bedroom. She had been on a conference call with her agent. She made a slashing motion across her throat. No, absolutely not. But Charlotte found herself saying, yes, send him up. Charlotte, Victoria started, I need to do this. I need to tell him face to face that it's over, that I'm not coming back. Then I'm staying right here. No, go back to your call. I can handle Graham. Victoria looked like she wanted to argue, but something in Charlotte's expression must have convinced her because she nodded once and disappeared back into her bedroom. The door stayed ajar, within earshot, close enough to intervene if necessary. Charlotte set aside her laptop, stood, pressed both hands to her lower back where the baby's weight made everything ache. She had 30 seconds before Graham knocked. She used them to breathe deeply and remind herself of every piece of evidence she had gathered, every lie she had uncovered, every woman whose name appeared in that box of letters. The knock came. Charlotte opened the door. Graham looked terrible, unshaven. His shirt was wrinkled. His hair was not styled the way he usually wore it. He looked like a man who had not slept in days. Good, Charlotte thought. Let him suffer. Charlotte, thank God. He stepped forward like he was going to hug her. Charlotte stepped back. He froze. Can I come in? No, say what you came to say and then leave. We need to talk. Really talk. Not through lawyers and not with your sister hovering over everything. Just us. The way it used to be. It was never just us. There was always someone else. Sarah, Michelle, Katie, should I keep going? Graham's face went white. Where did you get those names? The box in your closet. The one you thought I'd never find. The burner phone, the printed emails. All of it. I know everything, Graham. Every woman. Every lie. Every time you told me you were working late when you were actually, okay, yes, I've made mistake. Multiple mistakes over the course of our marriage. But Charlotte, none of them meant anything. You're the one I married. You're the one I chose. You didn't choose me. You chose the idea of me. The accomplished wife with the famous sister. The woman who made you look good at firm events. But you never actually wanted me. You wanted the image of a happy marriage without any of the work. Graham's jaw tightened. The red flush was creeping up his neck. The anger he always tried to hide behind reason and logic. That's not fair. I provided for you. I gave you a beautiful home, a comfortable life. You never had to worry about money or security. I never asked you to provide for me. I asked you to partner with me. There's a difference. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're being dramatic, emotional. You are not thinking clearly. Don't. Charlotte's voice came out sharp. Don't you dare tell me I'm not thinking clearly. I've been thinking very clearly for the past 3 months. That's how long I've been collecting evidence, screenshots, receipts, location data. I've been watching you lie to my face every single day while I documented everything. Graham's expression shifted, surprise, calculation. He was doing math in his head, trying to figure out what she knew, what she could prove. If you knew, why didn't you say anything sooner? Because I kept hoping I was wrong. Kept hoping there was some other explanation. Kept hoping you'd suddenly remember you had a pregnant wife and start acting like you cared. I do care. That's why I'm here. To fix this, to save our marriage. Our marriage is not fixable. You cheated on me with multiple women throughout our entire relationship. You manipulated me into getting pregnant so you'd have cover when your affair with Natasha came out. You brought her to my sister's opening night. She tried to hurt me, to hurt our baby. And your first instinct was to check on her instead of me. She didn't try to hurt you. You stumbled. That's all. I saw her foot. Victoria saw it. Half the gala saw it. Stop lying. Graham took a step closer. His voice dropped to that careful, measured tone he used when he was trying to manipulate her, when he was trying to make her doubt her own perception. Charlotte, listen to yourself. You sound paranoid. You're creating narratives that don't exist, connecting dots that aren't there. This is exactly what I was worried about. The pregnancy has made you unstable. No, Charlotte stood her ground. The pregnancy has made me see clearly for the first time in 8 years. It's given me a reason to stop accepting your bullshit, because I'm about to bring a daughter into this world, and I will not teach her that this is what love looks like. What does love look like then? Abandoning your family? Running to your sister the second things get hard? Things didn't get hard. You cheated. That's not a rough patch. That's a choice you made repeatedly, and I'm making a choice too. To leave, to protect myself and my daughter, and to stop apologizing for existing in my own life. You can't kick me out of my own home. Marcus already filed the papers. Victoria's name is on the deed as lien holder because you never paid back the $50,000 you owe her. The apartment is gone, Graham. You're going to have supervised visitation with our daughter until I'm convinced you're stable. You're going to pay child support based on your income at Sterling, and you're going to sign over any claim to my personal possessions and my future earnings. Sterling fired me. The words fell like stones. Charlotte stared at him. What? Monday morning, they fired me for violating workplace conduct policies. Because of Natasha, because of the video from the gala, because 17 other women came forward with complaints once they saw what happened to you, 17. The number echoed in Charlotte's head. 17 women. She had known about 4 from the box in the closet. That meant 13 more. 13 women Graham had harassed or assaulted or manipulated. Good, she said. You deserve to lose everything. I deserve? Graham's voice rose. I built my career from nothing. I worked 80-hour weeks to make partner. And now it's all gone because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. Because your sister had to make a scene. Because one woman who can't take a joke decided to ruin my reputation. 17 women, Graham, 17. That's not one bitter ex-employee. That's a pattern. That's who you actually are. This is your fault. Graham was shouting now, actually shouting. Charlotte had never heard him raise his voice before. He was always so controlled, so careful about appearances. If you'd been a better wife, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere. If you'd stayed interesting, if you'd stayed thin, if you'd given me what I needed instead of always being so needy yourself. Victoria's bedroom door flew open. She stormed into the living room like an avenging angel in yoga pants and a Harvard sweatshirt. Get out. This doesn't concern you, Victoria. My apartment, my sister, my rules. Get out before I call security, or better yet, before I call the police and tell them you're harassing a pregnant woman. Charlotte, please, we can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can... No. Charlotte's voice was calm, steady. We can't, because I don't want to work through this. I don't want it. Married to you, I don't love you anymore. I'm not sure I ever actually loved you. I love the idea of you, the potential, but the real you, the person who cheats and lies and manipulates, the person who blames me for your own choices, that person I can't stand. She walked to the door, opened it, stood aside. Leave now and don't come back. If you want to communicate, go through Marcus. That's it. We're done talking. Graham stared at her. She could see him trying to decide if he could still manipulate the situation, trying to find the angle that would make her doubt herself, that would make her take him back. But Charlotte was done being manipulated, done being gaslit, done apologizing for being invisible in her own life. You'll regret this, Graham said as he walked past her. When you're alone with a screaming baby at 3 in the morning, when you're struggling to pay rent, when you realize how hard single motherhood is, you'll regret walking away. No, Charlotte said quietly. I won't. Because anything is easier than pretending I don't know I'm invisible. She closed the door, locked it, slid the chain into place, turned around to find Victoria standing in the middle of the living room, tears streaming down her face. I'm so proud of you, Victoria whispered. Charlotte walked to the bathroom, closed the door, sat on the edge of the tub, and stared at herself in the mirror. Her face was flushed. Her hair was a mess. Her belly strained against the oversized shirt. She looked exhausted and swollen, and nothing like the polished wife she had tried so hard to be. But her eyes looked clear. For the first time in 8 years, Charlotte could see herself, the actual person she was instead of the person Graham wanted her to be. She had just told her husband she did not love him anymore, had stood in Victoria's living room and defended herself without wavering, had set boundaries without apologizing for them. Layer by layer, she was remembering who she used to be, who she might become again. The baby kicked, hard, like applause, like agreement. Charlotte pressed both hands to her belly and smiled through tears. Your mom just stood up for herself, she whispered. Your mom just set boundaries. Your mom is learning to be brave again. And maybe that was what transformation looked like. Not a single dramatic moment, but a series of small choices, small stands, small refusals to accept unacceptable treatment. Charlotte was not healed, was not whole, was not even close to okay. But she was done being silent, done being small, done disappearing. And that was a start. The video went viral on Thursday. Charlotte woke to her phone buzzing incessantly. Text messages, missed calls, notifications from social media accounts she barely used. She sat up in bed, disoriented, the baby pressing hard against her ribs. 3 million views in 24 hours. Someone at the gala had filmed the entire incident. The video was crystal clear. High definition. Professional quality. It showed Charlotte turning toward the terrace doors, showed Natasha's foot extending deliberately, showed Victoria catching Charlotte mid-fall. The audio was perfect too. Every word audible. Don't you dare touch my sister. The video had been posted to multiple platforms. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Each version had millions of views, thousands of comments. The story had been picked up by gossip blogs, entertainment news sites. Even mainstream news outlets were covering it. Pregnant woman attacked by husband's mistress at Ballet gala. Olympic champion protects sister from assault. Investment banker's wife publicly humiliated at Lincoln Center. Charlotte's phone buzzed again. Jennifer. She answered. Have you seen it? I'm looking at it now. How did this happen? Who posted it? Does it matter? It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. Graham's name is all over the comments. People figured out who he is. Sterling Investments is trending. This is bad, Charlotte. Or good. I can't tell which. Charlotte scrolled through the comments. There were thousands, tens of thousands. The opinions were split. This is why you don't let yourself go when you're married. Pregnancy isn't an excuse to stop trying. No wonder he cheated. Look at her. She clearly wasn't meeting his needs. But also, this man is absolute garbage. The sister protecting her is everything. That mistress deliberately tried to hurt a pregnant woman. I hope she takes him for every penny. 17 women filed complaints. He's a predator. Charlotte felt dizzy. The room was spinning. This was not supposed to happen. The dissolution of her marriage was supposed to be private, quiet, something she could process away from public scrutiny. Now millions of strangers were weighing in, judging her body, her choices, her marriage, deciding whether she deserved sympathy or scorn based on a 30-second video. Her phone rang. Marcus, have you seen the video? Everyone's seen the video, apparently. This changes things. Sterling released a statement an hour ago. They're conducting a full investigation into workplace conduct. 37 employees have filed formal complaints against Graham in the past 24 hours. The video gave them courage, gave them proof that they'll be believed. 37. Yesterday it had been 17. Now it was 37. Charlotte's stomach turned. How many women has he hurt? More than 37. Those are just the ones willing to come forward officially. My guess is there are dozens more who are too afraid or too traumatized to participate in an investigation. Charlotte closed her eyes, breathed. The baby kicked. She pressed her hand to the spot. Did you know, she asked? When you met with me on Monday, did you know he was this bad? I suspected. Men who cheat on their pregnant wives rarely limit their bad behavior to one mistress. But no, I didn't know the extent. He told me Sterling fired him on Monday. He came to Victoria's apartment yesterday and told me he lost his job because of me, because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. He was fired because of his own actions. The video just accelerated the timeline. Charlotte, I need to ask, are you okay? This level of public attention can be overwhelming. I don't know what I am. After they hung up, Charlotte stayed in bed for another hour, scrolling through comments, reading articles, watching the video over and over, trying to see it from an objective perspective, trying to understand how this had become a national story. But there was no objective perspective. This was her life, her marriage, her pain. And now it was entertainment for millions of people. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then did. Mrs. Hayes, this is Natasha Quinn. Charlotte's blood went cold. How did you get this number? From Graham's phone, I need to talk to you. There are things you should know. Things that came out after Sterling started their investigation. Please. I'm at the coffee shop. The one near Lincoln Center. Can you meet me now instead of at 3? Charlotte looked at the clock. 11:30. She was supposed to meet Natasha in 3.5 hours anyway. What difference did a few hours make? Give me an hour. I'll be there. She showered, got dressed, pulled her hair into a ponytail because it was too much effort to do anything else. Told Victoria where she was going. I'm coming with you. No, I need to do this alone. Charlotte, Victoria, please. I love you. I'm grateful for everything you're doing, but I need to hear what she has to say without you there, because if you're there, I'll want to be strong, and I need permission to fall apart if I'm going to fall apart. Victoria looked like she wanted to argue, but she just nodded. Call me if you need me. I can be there in 15 minutes. The coffee shop was nearly empty. Middle of a weekday, too late for breakfast rush, too early for lunch crowd. Natasha sat in a back corner booth wearing oversized sunglasses that didn't hide the bruise on her left cheek. Purple and yellow. Fresh enough that the swelling was still visible. Someone had hit her. Recently. Hard. Charlotte slid into the booth across from her. Did not order anything. Just waited. Thank you for coming. Natasha's voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying or screaming. I know you have no reason to help me, no reason to listen, but I need to tell you what happened. The bruise, did Graham do that? Natasha nodded, removed the sunglasses. Both eyes were bruised, not just the left one. Someone had hit her multiple times. Monday night, after Sterling started their investigation, after the video went viral, he came to my apartment, said I'd ruined his life, said everything was my fault, that I was a whore trying to trap him. Her voice broke. I told him I was pregnant. He hit me, told me to get rid of it, said he'd never leave his wife and child for me, that I meant nothing. Charlotte felt nothing, no sympathy, no satisfaction, just a vast empty numbness. Are you still pregnant? Yes, 12 weeks. I didn't know what to do. I can't afford a baby on my own. My salary at Sterling was barely enough to cover rent. And now I don't even have that because they fired me too, said I violated ethics policies by having a relationship with a senior partner. They fired you but not him? They fired him Monday, me on Tuesday. Equal opportunity destruction, I guess. Natasha laughed bitterly. Except it's not equal. He'll find another job. He has connections, references from before Sterling. But me, I'm 26 with a gap in my resume and a Google search that shows up this video. Who's going to hire me now? Charlotte studied the woman across from her, young, scared, bruised, not the calculating seductress Charlotte had imagined. Just a girl who had made a terrible choice and was paying for it in ways Charlotte was only beginning to understand. Why are you telling me this? Because I tripped you. Because I could have hurt your baby. Because for 6 months I've been calling you terrible names in my head. The bitter wife. The obligation he was trapped by. The reason he couldn't be happy. Natasha started crying. Quiet tears that didn't change her voice much. He told me your marriage was dead, that you were cold and distant, that the pregnancy was a last-ditch attempt to save something that had been over for years. I believed him. I believed every lie he told me because I was young and stupid and flattered that someone successful wanted me. What changed? The investigation. Sterling's lawyers interviewed me, asked me to provide documentation, text messages, emails, evidence of the relationship. I gave them everything, and they gave me something back. The names of other women, dates, timelines. Natasha pulled out her phone, scrolled, showed Charlotte a document, a spreadsheet, rows and rows of names, dates, locations, brief descriptions of Graham's interactions with women at Sterling and other firms. 43 women. The spreadsheet listed 43 women. Some just noted unwanted comments, others detailed assault, coercion, threats. He's been doing this his entire career, Natasha whispered. Since he was an analyst, working his way up the ladder by harassing women who couldn't fight back. I'm not special. You're not special. We're just the ones who happened to be available when he needed us. Charlotte stared at the names. Some were highlighted in red. What do the red ones mean? Women who got pregnant, 7 of them, over 15 years. All of them paid off with NDAs, all of them silenced. I'm number 8. 7 women, 7 pregnancies. Graham had created and destroyed 7 potential children before Charlotte's daughter, before Natasha's baby. I'm keeping mine, Natasha said suddenly. I know I shouldn't. I know it's stupid. I can barely afford to feed myself, let alone a baby. But I can't, I won't. Her voice broke completely. Charlotte reached across the table, touched Natasha's hand. The gesture surprised them both. There's a clinic on the Upper East Side, Dr. Rebecca Morrison. She's my OB, she's kind. She won't judge you for anything. Not the pregnancy, not your choices, not any of it. Tell her I sent you. Why are you being nice to me? I'm not being nice, I'm being human. Charlotte stood. Her body felt heavy. The baby was pressing on her bladder. She needed to pee constantly these days. You made a terrible choice. But Graham made worse ones. He's the one who made vows. He's the one who's supposed to protect his family. He's the one who hit you. Are you going to tell people about my pregnancy? Charlotte paused, considered. That's your story to tell, not mine. But if you want my advice, tell Sterling's lawyers. Today. Before Graham spins some narrative that makes you look unstable, he will. He'll say you're lying, that you're trying to extort him. He'll destroy your credibility before you even get a chance to speak. What if no one believes me? They'll believe you, because there are 42 other women saying the same thing. Because there's a video of you tripping his pregnant wife at a public event. Because Graham has already shown everyone exactly who he is. Charlotte left the coffee shop and stood on the sidewalk, breathing the cold November air. People walked past, normal people living normal lives. No one looked at her. No one recognized her from the viral video. She was just another pregnant woman in Manhattan, one of thousands. But she did not feel normal. She felt like she had been cracked open, like everything she thought she knew about her life had been a lie, like she had been married to a monster and somehow never fully understood the extent of his monstrosity until this moment. Her phone rang, Marcus again. I just got a very interesting call from Sterling's legal team. Apparently, Natasha Quinn walked into their offices 20 minutes ago with evidence of Graham's abuse, including photos of her injuries, including a recording of him threatening her, including documentation of her pregnancy. Good. She deserves justice. Charlotte, this is bigger than one woman getting justice. Sterling is preparing to offer a settlement to all 43 women who filed complaints. They want to avoid a lawsuit. They're going to pay out millions, and they want Graham prosecuted criminally. They're cooperating with the Manhattan DA's office. This could mean jail time. Jail time. Graham could go to jail for assault, for coercion, for 15 years of abusing his power. Charlotte should have felt satisfaction, should have felt vindicated, should have felt that justice was finally being served. But all she felt was exhausted, bone-deep tired, ready for this nightmare to be over, ready to stop thinking about Graham. ready to focus on the life growing inside her instead of the life that was falling apart around her. What does this mean for our divorce? It means we have all the leverage. It means he'll agree to anything we ask for. It means you and your daughter will be protected, financially, legally, in every way that matters. Good. That's all I want. Protection. For my daughter. That's it. Charlotte hung up, called Victoria. Can you come get me? I want to go home. I'm already in the car. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Charlotte sat on a bench outside the coffee shop and waited. Watched people walking past, couples holding hands, parents pushing strollers. Normal people with normal problems. She wondered if she would ever feel normal again. If there would ever be a time when she did not think about Graham's lies. When she did not flinch at unexpected sounds. When she did not wake up at 3 in the morning wondering what signs she had missed. But she also wondered if normal was the goal. Maybe normal had been the problem. Maybe normal had been the reason she had stayed so long. Because normal meant comfortable, meant predictable, meant accepting things the way they were instead of demanding they be better. The baby kicked, hard, like punctuation, like emphasis, like her daughter was reminding Charlotte that some things were more important than comfort. Victoria's car pulled up. Charlotte climbed in, did not talk, just let Victoria drive them back to the apartment that smelled like lavender and safety. That night, Charlotte lay in the guest room bed and thought about Natasha, about 7 other women, about 43 complaints, about 15 years of abuse. She thought about how close she had come to never knowing, to raising a daughter with a man who hurt women, to teaching her child that this was normal, that this was love. And she thought about how grateful she was for one moment of clarity, one moment when she had seen Natasha's foot, one moment when Victoria had caught her, one moment when everything had become undeniable. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is also the thing that saves you. Charlotte pressed both hands to her belly, felt her daughter moving, strong and alive and full of potential. I'm going to do better, she whispered. I'm going to teach you that you deserve respect, that you don't have to shrink yourself, that you're allowed to take up space. The baby kicked, like a promise, like agreement, and Charlotte finally let herself cry, not for Graham, not for the marriage, but for herself, for the woman she had been, for the years she had lost, for the person she was becoming. Tomorrow she would be strong, would move forward, would start building a life. But tonight she would just grieve. Just feel. Just let herself be broken before she started putting the pieces back together. Sterling Investments fired Graham on Monday morning, but Charlotte did not find out until Wednesday. She woke at 5, couldn't sleep. The baby was doing gymnastics against her ribs. Or maybe it was Charlotte's anxiety manifesting as movement. She couldn't tell anymore where her body ended and her emotions began. She gave up on sleep at 6 and reorganized Victoria's guest room closet, pulled out all the shoes, sorted them by color, then by height, then by style. Victoria had 37 pairs of ballet flats. Charlotte owned 3 pairs of shoes that still fit her swollen feet. The nesting instinct had kicked into overdrive. Charlotte couldn't control her imploding marriage, couldn't control the viral video, couldn't control the 43 women coming forward with stories about her husband. But she could organize shoes alphabetically by designer. Her phone rang at 7:30. Marcus. Sterling's investigation concluded. They released their findings this morning. It's bad, Charlotte. Worse than we thought. Charlotte sat on the floor surrounded by shoes. How bad? Graham's been abusing his power since he was hired 15 years ago. The investigation documented over 60 instances of harassment, assault, coercion, or workplace abuse. They found evidence of financial misconduct too. He's been stealing from client accounts for years, hiding it through complex trades. The SEC is involved now. 60 instances. The number was too big to process. What happens next? Criminal charges, federal and state, fraud, assault, battery, coercion. He's facing serious prison time. 10 years minimum. Maybe more. What about the divorce? He'll agree to anything. He has no leverage, no child, no income, no credibility. You get full custody. You get child support based on his last documented salary. You get everything. Charlotte should have felt victorious, should have felt satisfied, but all she felt was numb. After they hung up, she stayed on the floor, staring at the organized shoes. The baby kicked. She pressed her hand to the spot and started crying. Quiet tears that didn't stop for 20 minutes. Eleanor found her there, sat beside her on the floor, did not say anything, just sat. I married a monster, Charlotte finally said. I didn't just marry someone flawed. I married an actual monster who hurt dozens of women over 15 years. How did I not see it? He was good at hiding. That's what predators do. They charm, they manipulate. They create personas that hide their true nature. Eleanor's voice was gentle but firm. You didn't fail to see him. He actively worked to deceive you. There's a difference. But there were signs. The way he talked about women at work. The comments he made. The jokes I told myself were harmless. I heard him say terrible things and I excused it. I normalized it. You were surviving. You were doing what women are conditioned to do. Accommodate, excuse, minimize. You were not enabling him. You were being gaslit by an expert manipulator who had 15 years of practice. Charlotte wanted to believe her, wanted to believe she was not complicit, but the guilt sat heavy in her chest. The Times published an opinion piece that afternoon, When Workplace Affairs Become Workplace Abuse. It detailed the culture at Sterling, the pattern of senior partners exploiting junior employees, the complicity of HR departments, the system that protected powerful men at the expense of vulnerable women. It quoted anonymous sources from Sterling, mentioned Graham by initials, described the video incident as attempted assault on the pregnant wife of a serial workplace predator. Serial predator, that was her husband, the father of her child, the man she had promised to love forever. Victoria came home at noon with groceries. Started making lunch without asking if Charlotte was hungry. Turkey and avocado on whole grain bread. Orange juice, prenatal vitamins. I need to tell you something, Victoria said as they sat at the kitchen island. Jennifer didn't just see Graham with Natasha in June. She saw him in March too, with someone else, a different woman. And she told me then, 4 months before your sister's gala. I knew Graham was cheating on you while you were 8 weeks pregnant, and I didn't tell you. Charlotte set down her sandwich. Why not? Because you weren't ready to hear it. Every time I hinted something was wrong, you defended him, told me I didn't understand your marriage, that every couple had problems, that I was too critical because I never liked him. You should have told me anyway. I know. I should have trusted you to handle the truth. I was trying to protect you, but I should have respected you enough to let you make your own choices. Victoria's voice cracked. I'm so sorry. If I told you sooner, you could have left before I was 7 months pregnant, before it was too late to do anything except have his baby and try to survive. Charlotte felt anger rising, real anger for the first time in weeks. You took away my choices. I know, you're right. I was wrong. I don't have an excuse. I wanted to wait until I was sure, until I had proof. I didn't want to blow up your life based on something Jennifer saw from across a restaurant. You waited 4 months. Yes. You let me stay with him. Let me believe we were happy. Let me plan for a future that was never going to exist. Yes. Charlotte stood, paced. The anger felt good, felt clarifying, felt like oxygen after drowning. Everyone knew. Jennifer knew, you knew, probably half of Sterling knew. Everyone except me, the stupid pregnant wife who couldn't see what was right in front of her. You weren't stupid. He was calculated. There's a difference. I feel stupid. I feel like the biggest idiot on the planet. How many people were laughing at me? How many people pitied me? How many people thought I was pathetic for not knowing my own husband was a serial abuser? Victoria stood too. I don't know. Probably a lot. People are cruel. People love watching other people's pain from a safe distance. But Charlotte, you're not pathetic. You're a woman who trusted her husband. That's not weakness. That's what marriage is supposed to be. Well, it turns out I was married to someone who didn't deserve trust, who spent 15 years hurting people, who created 8 now with Natasha, unwanted pregnancies, who paid off women to keep them quiet, who hit his mistress hard enough to bruise her face. Charlotte's voice was rising. She couldn't stop it. The anger was spilling out. All the rage she'd been suppressing. All the grief, all the pain. He made me hate myself. Do you understand that? For 2 years, I've been shrinking, making myself smaller, quieter, more convenient, apologizing for needing things, for having feelings, for existing. And the whole time he was out creating this trail of destruction. The whole time I was trying so hard to be a good wife to someone who didn't even see me as human. Victoria moved toward her. Charlotte stepped back. Don't comfort me. I don't want comfort. I want to be angry. I've earned the right to be angry. Then be angry. Scream if you want to scream. Break things if you need to break things. You've been so controlled, so calm, so reasonable. Let yourself fall apart. But Charlotte didn't want to scream, didn't want to break things. She just wanted to understand how she had gotten here, how she had let her life become unrecognizable. She walked to the guest room, closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her reflection in the mirror across the room. She looked old, tired. Her face was puffy from crying. Her hair was a mess. Her maternity clothes hung awkwardly on her body. This was not the life she'd imagined at 22, at 25, at 30. She was supposed to be happy by now, supposed to be settled, supposed to have figured everything out. Instead, she was 33 years old, 7 months pregnant, getting divorced, living in her sister's guest room, and trying to process the fact that she'd married a man who had hurt 60 women over 15 years. Her phone buzzed, a text from Dr. Morrison. Natasha Quinn came to see me today. She's 12 weeks pregnant and terrified. I'm helping her explore her options. Thank you for sending her. It took courage for you to extend compassion to someone who hurt you. Charlotte stared at the message. She hadn't felt courageous. She'd felt numb. But maybe courage didn't always feel brave. Maybe sometimes it just felt like moving forward when every instinct said to stop. She lay back on the bed, closed her eyes, felt the baby moving inside her. Tried to imagine what her daughter would look like, what she would sound like, what kind of person she would become. Charlotte had spent 8 years making herself smaller for a man who had never deserved her. She would not make that same mistake with her daughter, would not teach her to shrink, to accommodate, to accept less than she deserved. Her daughter would know her worth, would know she was allowed to take up space, would know that leaving was sometimes the bravest choice. The door opened. Victoria stood in the doorway. Can I come in? Charlotte nodded. Victoria sat on the bed, took Charlotte's hand. I'm sorry for not telling you sooner, for taking away your choices, for trying to protect you when I should have respected you. I'm sorry, too, for defending him, for not listening when you tried to warn me, for wasting so much time on someone who never loved me. He did love you, in the only way he was capable of loving anyone. But his capacity for love was broken. That's not your fault. They sat in silence. Outside, the city was moving, cars honking, people walking, life continuing despite everything falling apart. What happens now? Charlotte asked. Now you heal, one day at a time, one small choice at a time. You remember who you were before him. You figure out who you want to be after him. What if I don't know who that person is? Then you get to find out. That's the beautiful thing about starting over. You get to choose. Charlotte wanted to believe her, wanted to believe starting over could feel like freedom instead of failure. But right now it just felt like drowning, like being lost in the middle of an ocean with no shore in sight. The baby kicked, hard. Charlotte pressed both hands to her belly. She's running out of room in there. Only 2 more months. Then you get to meet her. Then everything changes again. I'm terrified of being a single mother. You're not going to be alone. You have me. You have Mom. You have Jennifer. You have a whole community of people who love you, who will help you, who won't let you fail. Charlotte closed her eyes, let herself breathe, let herself exist in this moment of not knowing, of uncertainty, of transformation. Tomorrow she would figure out the next step, would call Marcus, would finalize divorce details, would prepare for life as a single parent. But tonight she would just be, just feel, just let herself grieve for the life she'd thought she was building, the life that had turned out to be built on lies. And somewhere in the grief, Charlotte felt something else stirring, something that felt like anger, but also like power, like determination, like the first spark of becoming someone new. She wasn't there yet, wasn't healed, wasn't whole, but she was starting to remember what it felt like to fight back, to refuse, to demand better. And that was something. That was a beginning. Charlotte went back to the Tribeca apartment on Tuesday. She hadn't slept, had spent Monday night lying in Victoria's guest room, staring at the ceiling, trying to prepare herself for entering the space where her marriage had died, where she had spent 3 years believing she was building a life. Jennifer met her in the lobby with packing boxes and too much coffee. "You don't have to do this today." "Yes, I do. I need my things. I need to close this chapter." Victoria had wanted to come, but Charlotte said no. This was something she needed to do alone, needed to walk through those rooms one final time and say goodbye to the life she'd imagined. The apartment felt foreign, like a museum of someone else's existence. The furniture was the same, the art on the walls, the carefully curated aesthetic Graham had insisted on, but it didn't feel like home. Maybe it never had. Charlotte moved through the rooms methodically, started in the bedroom. Her clothes, her shoes that didn't fit anymore, her jewelry box, the framed photo of her and Victoria as children, the books on her nightstand. She left the wedding photos, left the expensive art, left everything that felt like part of their shared life instead of hers alone. In the closet, she found the box again, the one with letters and emails and that burner phone. Jennifer had already photographed everything, given copies to Marcus. But Charlotte hadn't looked through it carefully, hadn't wanted to know the details. Now she opened it, read through letters from women whose names she didn't know, women who had loved Graham, who had believed his lies, who had been discarded when they became inconvenient. One letter was from someone named Sarah, dated 8 years ago, the month before Graham proposed to Charlotte. "Graham, I don't understand why you won't return my calls. You said you loved me. You said we were building a future together. Was any of it real? I'm pregnant. I need to know what you want me to do. Please, I can't do this alone." There was no second letter from Sarah. No follow-up. Just that single desperate plea. Charlotte felt sick. Graham had gotten Sarah pregnant, had proposed to Charlotte anyway, had moved forward with their wedding while dealing with Sarah's crisis, had probably paid for an abortion, had probably made Sarah sign an NDA, and Charlotte had known none of it. Had walked down the aisle in a white dress believing she was marrying someone honest, someone good, someone who loved her. She set the letter back in the box, closed it, gave it to Jennifer. "Make sure Marcus gets this, all of it. Every piece of evidence that Graham Hayes is a monster." They moved to the nursery, the room Charlotte had decorated alone, the crib she'd assembled from YouTube instructions, the mobile with woodland creatures, the sage green walls that were supposed to feel peaceful. "We're taking everything," Jennifer said firmly. "Every piece, don't leave her anything." They disassembled the crib, packed the clothes, the blankets, the changing table, the rocking chair where Charlotte had imagined feeding her daughter at 3 a.m. It took 3 hours to pack Charlotte's entire life into 16 boxes. Not much to show for 8 years of marriage. Not much physical evidence that she'd ever existed in this space. The movers came, loaded everything into a truck, promised delivery to Victoria's apartment by evening. Charlotte took one last walk through the empty rooms. The kitchen, where she'd cooked dinners Graham barely ate. The living room, where she'd spent so many evenings alone while he claimed to be working late. The bedroom where they'd conceived their daughter in what she now understood was a calculated decision. None of it felt like hers. It never had. She'd been a guest in her own life, playing house, playing wife, playing at happiness, while Graham built other lives behind her back. "Ready?" Jennifer asked. Charlotte nodded. They left, dropped the keys at the front desk, walked out into the November cold. On the sidewalk, Charlotte paused, looked back at the building, 14 stories of glass and steel, expensive, impressive, empty. "I wasted 8 years," she said. "You didn't waste anything. You learned. You grew. You survived. That's not waste." But it felt like waste, felt like time stolen, felt like 8 years of becoming smaller when she should have been becoming more. That night, Charlotte couldn't sleep again. The baby was pressing on her bladder. Her hips ached. Her back hurt. She was 33 years old, 7 months pregnant, getting divorced, and trying to figure out who she was without Graham defining her. She opened her laptop, found the folder labeled Before Graham, photos from college, videos of her dancing at showcases, competition programs, acceptance letters to graduate programs she'd never attended. There she was at 22, performing contemporary ballet. Her body moving like water, her face bright with joy. She'd been fearless. When had she learned to be afraid? She Googled the Brooklyn company that had offered her a choreography position 8 years ago. They still existed, smaller, struggling like most arts organizations, but alive. The company was called Movement Collective. Their website showed current projects. A piece about immigration. Another about climate change. They made socially conscious contemporary work, the kind of art Charlotte had dreamed of creating. Before she could talk herself out of it, she was writing an email. Dear Artistic Director Martinez, you won't remember me. 8 years ago, you offered me an assistant choreographer position for your contemporary works. I turned you down to focus on arts administration and, subsequently, marriage. I'm now 7 months pregnant, getting divorced, and trying to remember who I was before I became someone's wife. I'm writing to ask if you might consider allowing me to observe rehearsals. I'm not looking for a job, just permission to remember what it felt like to be in a room where art is being made. I understand if this is inappropriate or impossible. Thank you for the opportunity you gave me all those years ago, even though I lack the courage to take it. Sincerely, Charlotte Hayes. She hit send before she could overthink it, closed her laptop, felt the baby kick. Just you and me now, she whispered to her belly. We're going to figure this out together. The baby kicked again, like agreement, like a promise. Charlotte closed her eyes, let herself imagine a different future. One where she wasn't defined by Graham's betrayal, where she was a mother and an artist, where she took up space unapologetically. It felt impossible, but also necessary, like the only way forward was through transformation, through becoming someone entirely new. Her phone buzzed, an email notification. She opened it, expecting spam. It was from Movement Collective, from Maria Martinez herself. Charlotte, of course I remember you. You were talented, gifted. I was disappointed when you declined the position, but I understood. Life happens. Choices get made. We're currently developing a piece about transformation, about women who lose themselves and find themselves again. We need authentic perspective. If you're interested, come to rehearsal this Thursday at 2. Bring your story. Bring your body. Bring whatever's left of who you used to be. We're in Brooklyn, same studio. I'll send you the address. Don't overthink it. Just come. With hope, Maria Charlotte read the email 3 times, then a 4th, then a 5th. Someone wanted her. Someone remembered her. Someone thought she still had something to offer beyond being Graham's victim. She started crying again, but these tears felt different. Less like grief, more like relief, like permission. She responded immediately. Maria, I'll be there Thursday. Thank you, Charlotte. She set down her phone, lay back in bed, felt the baby moving inside her, strong and alive and full of potential. Tomorrow she would call Marcus, would finalize divorce details, would figure out custody and child support and all the legal machinery of ending a marriage. But tonight she would just breathe, would just exist in this moment of possibility, would just let herself hope that maybe eventually she could be whole again. The baby kicked. Charlotte pressed both hands to her belly, whispered promises to her daughter, promises about teaching her strength, about showing her what it meant to start over, about being brave even when you're terrified. And for the first time in 8 years, Charlotte felt like herself, not Graham's wife, not the pregnant victim in a viral video, not the woman who had let herself disappear, just Charlotte. Charlotte who used to dance, Charlotte who used to dream, Charlotte who was learning to fight back. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. And sometimes a beginning is all you need. The divorce mediation was scheduled for Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. Charlotte woke at 5, braided her hair, put on the one dress that still fit, navy blue, professional, borrowed from Victoria, applied makeup carefully. She wanted to look strong even if she didn't feel strong, wanted to face Graham from a position of power even though her hands were shaking. Marcus met her in the courthouse lobby at 8:45. "How are you feeling?" "Terrified." "Ready?" "Both." "Good. Terrified means you understand the stakes. Ready means you're prepared to fight for what you deserve." He walked her through the process. What would happen? What Graham's lawyer might say. What outcomes to expect. He's going to try to negotiate, going to claim he has no income since Sterling fired him, going to paint himself as the victim. Don't let him gaslight you. We have documentation of everything. What if he gets shared custody? He won't. His criminal charges and the abuse allegations make him unsuitable for unsupervised visitation. At best, he gets supervised visits twice a month until your daughter is 2. Then we reassess based on his behavior. At best, 2 visits a month with their daughter, supervised by a court-appointed monitor. That was the best-case scenario for the man she'd promised to love forever. The mediation room was sterile. Gray walls, conference table, no windows. Graham sat on one side with his attorney, a woman in her 50s wearing an expensive suit and an expression that suggested she wished she'd taken a different case. Charlotte sat across from him with Marcus, tried not to look at Graham, tried not to remember the man she'd married, the one who'd made her laugh, who'd seemed to see something special in her. That man had never existed, had been a performance, a role Graham played until he got what he wanted. Mrs. Hayes, Mr. Hayes. The mediator was a man in his 60s with kind eyes and graying hair. "We're here to discuss terms for dissolution of your marriage. Given that Mrs. Hayes is 7 months pregnant, we're prioritizing custody arrangements and child support. Mr. Hayes, your attorney has submitted your proposed terms. Would you like to walk us through them?" Graham's lawyer cleared her throat. "My client is requesting joint custody with equal parenting time once the child is weaned. He's requesting that Mrs. Hayes pay him temporary spousal support given his current unemployment. He's also requesting equal division of marital assets, including the Trebek apartment." Charlotte felt her stomach drop. Graham wanted her to pay him, wanted joint custody, wanted half the apartment Victoria had loaned them money for. Marcus didn't miss a beat. "Those terms are unacceptable and frankly insulting. Mr. Hayes was terminated for cause after a workplace investigation documented 60 instances of harassment, assault, and abuse over 15 years. He's currently facing criminal charges for assault, coercion, and securities fraud. He has demonstrated a pattern of violent and manipulative behavior that makes him unsuitable for unsupervised contact with a minor child. My client has not been convicted of any crime," Graham's lawyer started. "Yet, he hasn't been convicted yet, but the evidence against him is substantial. Video footage of his mistress attempting to harm his pregnant wife, medical documentation of injuries he inflicted on that same mistress, testimony from 43 women documenting abuse, bank records showing theft from client accounts. Should I continue?" The mediator raised his hand. "Let's take a step back. Mr. Hayes, I need to ask, do you have employment prospects?" Graham cleared his throat. "I'm currently exploring options. Several firms have expressed interest." "No, they haven't." Marcus pulled out a document. "We contacted every major investment firm in Manhattan. None of them will hire someone with pending criminal charges and a documented history of workplace abuse. Mr. Hayes' career in finance is over." Graham's face flushed that terrible red. "This is character assassination. This is documented fact. Mrs. Hayes wants full physical and legal custody with supervised visitation twice per month until the child is 2 years old. At that point, we revisit based on Mr. Hayes' behavior, employment status, and criminal record. She's requesting child support calculated at 20% of his last documented annual salary at Sterling, which was $215,000. That comes to approximately $3,500 per month. My client has no income." Graham's lawyer looked genuinely distressed. "He can't pay child support if he's unemployed. Then he should find employment. Any employment. Even minimum wage work generates income that can be garnished for child support. New York law doesn't exempt unemployed fathers from supporting their children." The mediator made notes. "What about marital assets?" "Mrs. Hayes is willing to cede the Tribeca apartment to Mr. Hayes. However, his sister, Victoria Hayes Sinclair, loaned the couple $50,000 for the down payment 3 years ago. That loan was never repaid. Ms. Hayes Sinclair's name is on the deed as lien holder. She's prepared to foreclose unless Mr. Hayes can pay the full amount plus interest within 60 days. Graham leaned forward. Charlotte, please. We don't have to do this. We can work something out. For our child. For our family. Charlotte looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw the desperation. The calculation. The manipulation. I made mistakes, Graham continued. His voice was soft, pleading. The voice he used when he wanted something. I know that. I've hurt you. I've hurt a lot of people, but I'm getting help. I'm in therapy. I'm trying to be better. Don't take my child away from me. Charlotte felt Marcus tense beside her. Felt the mediator watching. Felt the weight of this moment. She took a breath. Let herself feel everything. The anger, the grief, the betrayal. Then let it all settle into something cold and clear. You didn't make mistakes. Mistakes are accidents. Forgetting to buy milk is a mistake. Staying late at work without calling is a mistake. What you did was make choices. Deliberate choices. Every single day for 15 years. Her voice was steady, calm. She barely recognized it. You chose to harass women who worked for you. You chose to assault them. You chose to get at least 8 women pregnant and pay them to terminate or disappear. You chose to cheat on me with multiple women throughout our marriage. You chose to manipulate me into getting pregnant so you'd have cover when your affair came out. You chose to bring your mistress to my sister's opening night. And when she tried to hurt me, tried to hurt our baby, you chose to check on her first. Graham opened his mouth. Charlotte held up her hand. I'm not finished. You chose to gaslight me for 2 years. To make me feel crazy for noticing things were wrong. You chose to make me shrink myself. To apologize for existing. To believe I was the problem when you were the problem all along. She paused. Breathed. The baby kicked. You hit Natasha. You stole from your clients. You built a career on destroying women who couldn't fight back. Those weren't mistakes. That's who you are. And I will not let my daughter anywhere near you unsupervised. I won't teach her that this is what fathers do. That this is what love looks like. Graham's face had gone white. You're being vindictive. No, I'm being protective. There's a difference. Charlotte turned to the mediator. I have a proposal. Everyone looked at her. Graham gets the apartment. I get full physical and legal custody with supervised visitation until our daughter is 2 years old. After 2 years, we reassess based on his behavior, his criminal record, and what's in her best interest. He pays child support based on his last salary at Sterling, $3,500 per month. If he can't afford that, he finds work. Any work. He signs away any claim to my grandmother's jewelry, my personal possessions, and any future earnings from my career. Charlotte's voice didn't waver. And he stays away from me. All communication goes through attorneys. He doesn't call, doesn't text, doesn't show up at my home or my work. If he violates that, I file for a restraining order. Those are my terms, non-negotiable. The silence in the room was absolute. Graham's lawyer looked at her client. Graham looked at Charlotte. Charlotte looked at the mediator and waited. Mr. Hayes, the mediator finally said, your response? Graham's jaw was clenched so tight Charlotte could see the muscle jumping. Fine, agreed. Can I go now? We need to draft the agreement. My attorney can handle it. I'm done here. He stood, walked out, didn't look back. The door swung shut behind him with a decisive click. Charlotte sat perfectly still, waited for tears, for relief, for something to indicate this moment mattered. But all she felt was empty, like something had been excavated from her chest. That was impressive, Graham's attorney said quietly. I've been doing this 25 years. I've never seen someone stand up to my client like that. She shouldn't have had to, Marcus replied. The attorney nodded, gathered her papers. For what it's worth, I'm sorry about all of it. He's not a good man. After she left, Marcus turned to Charlotte. How do you feel? I don't know. I thought I'd feel something. Vindication, satisfaction, relief. But I just feel tired. That's normal. You just ended your marriage, stood up to your abuser, set boundaries without apologizing for them. That takes enormous energy. Of course you're tired. They walked out of the courthouse together. The November sun was weak but bright enough to hurt Charlotte's eyes. She stood on the steps and breathed cold air. Her phone buzzed. Victoria. How did it go? It's done. He agreed to everything. Full custody, child support, everything. I'm so proud of you. I'm in the car. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Victoria, thank you for everything, for catching me, for letting me stay, for believing me, for being there. That's what sisters do. We catch each other when we fall. Charlotte hung up, waited on the courthouse steps, watched people walking past, lawyers and clients, and people whose lives were falling apart or coming together. She wondered what they saw when they looked at her. A pregnant woman alone, a divorce in progress, a scandal, a victim. But Charlotte didn't feel like a victim anymore. She felt like someone who had fought back, who had refused to accept unacceptable treatment, who had drawn boundaries and defended them. Victoria's car pulled up. Charlotte climbed in, didn't speak, just let Victoria drive. We have a stop to make, Victoria said, after a few blocks. If you're up for it. Where? You'll see. They drove to Brooklyn, to a warehouse district Charlotte vaguely recognized. Victoria parked in front of a building with huge windows and a sign that said, Movement Collective. Your rehearsal is in 20 minutes, I emailed Maria, told her what happened. She said to come anyway. That art is the best medicine for a broken heart. Charlotte looked at the building, saw dancers moving through the windows, saw the life she'd abandoned 8 years ago. I'm 8 months pregnant. I can't dance. You can watch. You can think. You can remember what it felt like to create something. Come on. They went inside. The studio was exactly as Charlotte had imagined. Worn wood floors, mirrors on every wall, the smell of sweat and rosin and possibility. Maria Martinez was in her 50s, tiny but commanding. She wore all black and moved like someone half her age. Charlotte, I'm so glad you came. Let me show you what we're working on. 6 dancers were warming up. Range of ages, range of body types, moving with that particular focus dancers have, that total presence in their bodies. We're creating a piece about transformation, Maria explained, about women who break and rebuild. We've been developing it for 3 months, but something's missing. An emotional authenticity, a truth about what it actually feels like to lose yourself and find yourself again. She looked at Charlotte. I think you might have that truth, if you're willing to share it. Charlotte watched the dancers move, felt something stirring in her chest, recognition, longing, fear. I don't know if I remember how to do this, to make dances, to trust my own instincts. Then we'll remember together. Tell me a story. Tell me what the past weeks have felt like. I'll translate it into movement. We'll see what happens. Charlotte sat on the floor. Victoria sat beside her. The dancers gathered around. It feels like falling, Charlotte started, like the ground disappeared and suddenly you're just air, just space, waiting to hit bottom. Show me, Maria said to the dancers. Show me falling, but not falling down, falling up, falling into space. The dancers moved, bodies collapsing and reaching simultaneously, falling and flying, breaking and becoming. Charlotte watched, felt tears on her face. Yes, like that, but also fighting, like you're falling, but you're also clawing your way back, like part of you wants to give up and part of you refuses. Add that, Maria instructed, the resistance, the refusal to stay broken. For an hour, Charlotte told stories through movement, described grief and the dancers found ways to embody it, described rage and watched them transform it into something beautiful. Describe that terrible moment of realizing everything you thought was true was a lie. And slowly, piece by piece, a dance emerged. Raw, honest, devastating, real. When they finished, Charlotte was crying, but so was everyone else. The dancers, Maria, Victoria. They had created something true together, something that mattered. This is it, Maria said softly. This is what the piece has been missing. Charlotte, I want you to come back. Not just to observe, to co-choreograph, to make this piece with us. I'm about to have a baby. Then we'll wait. We have time. This piece needs you. And maybe you need this piece. Charlotte looked at Victoria. Can I do this? Is it crazy to think I can be a mother and an artist? Mom did it. She raised 2 kids while teaching at Juilliard. You can do it too. Charlotte closed her eyes, let herself imagine it. A life where she was more than Graham's ex-wife, more than a single mother. Where she was also an artist, a creator. Someone who made beautiful things from broken pieces. Okay, she said. Yes, I want to try. Maria smiled. Good, now go home, rest, grow that baby. We'll see you after she's born. In the car ride back to Manhattan, Charlotte felt something she hadn't felt in 8 years. Hope, it's real hope, not the desperate hope that Graham would change, but hope for herself, for who she might become. Victoria, thank you for bringing me here, for remembering I used to be someone before him. You're still that someone. You just forgot for a while. But Charlotte, you're remembering. And that person you're becoming, she's going to be amazing. That night, Charlotte lay in bed at 3 a.m. and thought about the day, the mediation, the boundaries she'd set, the dance she'd helped create, the future that was starting to take shape. She wasn't healed, wasn't whole. The divorce wasn't finalized. The baby wasn't born. Graham's trial was still pending. Nothing was resolved. But something had shifted. Some fundamental change in how Charlotte saw herself. She wasn't Graham's victim anymore. Wasn't defined by his betrayal. She was Charlotte Hayes, artist, mother-to-be, survivor, someone who had fallen and was learning to fly. The baby kicked. Charlotte pressed both hands to her belly, whispered the promises she'd been making every night. I'm going to teach you to be brave, to take up space, to refuse things that hurt you, to create beauty even when everything's broken. The baby kicked again, harder this time, like she was ready, like she couldn't wait to meet this mother who was finding her strength. Charlotte closed her eyes, let herself drift towards sleep. Tomorrow she would wake up, would keep moving forward, would keep rebuilding. But tonight she would rest, would let her body prepare for the birth ahead, would let her mind prepare for the transformation. She'd been tripped, she'd fallen. But she was learning that falling was just the beginning. The real story was what came after. The getting up, the fighting back, the becoming, and Charlotte's story was just getting started. Charlotte went into labor 3 weeks later on a Tuesday morning at 4:37. She woke to a contraction that felt like her entire body was trying to turn inside out. Gasped, reached for her phone. 5 minutes later, another one came. Her water broke at 5:15. Victoria, she called. It's time. Victoria burst through the door, she already dressed. Eleanor was already awake with the hospital bag packed by the door. They drove to Mount Sinai through empty morning streets. Labor lasted 16 hours. Charlotte had made a birth plan, had researched everything, had decided on an epidural at 6 centimeters, had written detailed instructions about music and lighting. None of it mattered. The baby had other plans. The pain erased everything else. Past, future, identity, all of it disappeared into the singular focus of getting through the next contraction. Victoria held her hand. Eleanor wiped her forehead. Dr. Morrison checked her cervix every hour and said encouraging things. At 6:22 in the evening, Charlotte pushed her daughter into the world. The baby came out screaming, furious. Dr. Morrison laid her on Charlotte's chest, tiny, wrinkled, perfect. She's here, Charlotte whispered. You're real. The baby stopped crying, looked at Charlotte with unfocused eyes, seemed to recognize her mother's voice. What's her name? Dr. Morrison asked. Charlotte had thought about this for months. Graham had wanted to name a daughter after his grandmother. Charlotte had agreed then. But this baby was Charlotte's, created in her body, born from her strength. Juliet, Charlotte said, after my grandmother, Juliet Rose Hayes. Not Hayes Graham, just Hayes, the name she was reclaiming. It's perfect, Eleanor said softly. Welcome to the world, sweet girl. The nurses showed Charlotte how to help Juliet latch for breastfeeding. It took 20 minutes and hurt more than expected, but eventually Juliet figured it out. She's a fighter, Victoria said, just like her mom. At 9 o'clock, Charlotte's phone buzzed. Graham, congratulations. I'd like to meet my daughter. Charlotte responded as Marcus had instructed. Supervised visitation can begin in 2 weeks per our agreement. Contact my attorney to schedule. Graham didn't respond. Charlotte blocked his number. 2 days later, Charlotte brought Juliet home to Victoria's apartment. The guest room had been transformed. Crib, changing table, rocking chair, every baby item arranged carefully. You did this while I was in labor? Daniel helped, and Richard, and Jennifer, and about 15 people from the company. Victoria grinned. You have a village. The first weeks were hard. Juliet ate every 2 hours, cried unpredictably, slept in 20-minute increments, but also tiny fingers wrapping around Charlotte's, the smell of newborn skin, the way Juliet's eyes tracked movement, the overwhelming beautiful reality of loving someone more than yourself. Eleanor stayed 3 weeks. Victoria came home every lunch. Jennifer visited twice a week. Charlotte learned she didn't have to do everything alone. 6 weeks after Juliet was born, Charlotte went to Brooklyn. The Movement Collective studio felt exactly the same, but Charlotte felt different. Her body changed, marked by pregnancy, transformed. Charlotte! Maria hugged her. And this must be Juliet. She's gorgeous. The dancers were working on the piece Charlotte had helped create. The falling and fighting, the breaking and becoming. Charlotte watched with Juliet asleep in a carrier. It's beautiful, but the ending needs something. The transformation doesn't feel complete. She demonstrated slowly, her body remembering movement it hadn't spoken in 8 years. The dancers followed. Together, they found what was missing. Charlotte, I want you to co-choreograph the entire piece. Your name on the program. Your vision shaping the work. Are you interested? Charlotte looked down at Juliet. I can't commit full time. I have a baby. So bring her. Half our company has kids. We have a whole baby room. Charlotte thought about who she'd been, just Graham's wife, someone who had forgotten to dream. Yes, she said, I want to try to. Over 3 months, Charlotte learned to be a mother and artist simultaneously. She choreographed with Juliet strapped to her chest, created art about survival while surviving new motherhood. It was messy, exhausting, often impossible, but also beautiful, also proof she could be more than one thing. The divorce finalized in February. Charlotte got full custody. Graham got supervised visitation twice monthly. He attended 3 visits before his lawyer called to say he was no longer interested in contact with his daughter. Charlotte felt only relief. Juliet would grow up without Graham's toxicity. In March, The Times ran a profile about Movement Collective's new piece. Transformation, a dance about survival, would premiere in May. The article mentioned Charlotte by name, called her a choreographer to watch. In April, Graham was convicted on 14 counts, sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Marcus called with the news. How do you feel? I feel nothing. Is that wrong? It's honest. He's not your problem anymore. You're free. Free. The word settled over Charlotte like a blessing. The premiere was May 15th at a small Brooklyn theater. Sold out in 3 days. Added 3 more performances. Opening night, Charlotte stood in the wings. Juliet was in the audience with Eleanor. Victoria sat front row in jeans and a baseball cap. The lights came up. The dancers moved. The story unfolded. A woman who falls, who breaks, who fights back, who transforms, who becomes stronger. The audience was silent throughout. Then the final moment. The woman standing alone, not victorious, not healed, but present, alive, changed. The lights faded, then applause. The entire audience stood, some crying, many recognizing something true. Charlotte felt tears streaming, but these tears felt like release, like proof her story mattered. Afterward, a young woman approached, maybe 25, tears on her face. I'm trying to leave someone, trying to find courage. Tonight gave me hope that there's life after. Charlotte hugged her. You can, you will, you'll serve him, and you'll be amazed by who you become. Later at her apartment, her own small 1-bedroom in Brooklyn, Charlotte fed Juliet at 3 in the morning. The space was tiny, old, the heat inconsistent. Nothing like the Tribeca apartment, but it was hers. Every piece, every book, every photo, just Charlotte's life. Messy, real, authentic. Your mom is a choreographer, she whispered to Juliet. Your mom is a survivor. Someday I'll tell you this story about how the worst thing that happened cracked me open, and something stronger grew from the broken places. Juliet yawned, milk drunk, peaceful. Charlotte looked out at the Brooklyn skyline. Dawn was coming, the city was waking up, and so was she. Every day, a little more herself, a little more whole. She'd been tripped at a gala, had fallen, had nearly crashed, but Victoria had caught her. Her family had held her, and slowly Charlotte had learned to catch herself. The fall hadn't destroyed her. It had freed her, had shown her the life she'd been living was too small. Now sitting in her own apartment with her daughter asleep in her arms, Charlotte finally understood. The point was never to get back to who she'd been before Graham. The point was to become who she'd always been meant to be. A mother, an artist, a survivor, a woman who took up space without apologizing, who created beauty from pain, who taught her daughter that falling was just the beginning. Charlotte closed her eyes, breathed, felt her daughter's weight in her arm. She'd been tripped, she'd fallen, but she'd learned to fly. And that was everything. And that's how Charlotte Hayes went from a woman who had lost everything to a woman who had found herself. If Charlotte's story resonated with you, if you've ever felt invisible in your own life, if you've ever had to choose between staying comfortable and becoming free, hit that like button. Let me know in the comments what part of her journey spoke to you the most. Was it the moment she set boundaries with Graham? The coffee shop scene with Natasha? Or maybe that final dance premiere where she reclaimed her art? Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's trying to find the courage to leave, someone who's learning to take up space again, someone who needs to know that transformation is possible even when everything feels broken. And if you want more stories about survival, strength, and women who refuse to stay small, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because every week I bring you real stories about real people finding their power in impossible situations. Remember, you're not trapped. You're not too late. You're not broken beyond repair. You're just at the beginning of your own transformation. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next story.